Craig was just kind of describing sort of the conversations as you're seeing who's available there, second and third. I mean, maybe just from your team's perspective, how pleased were you to see Etienne and then eventually Edouard too?
Well, we were obviously pleased. I mean, we knew it was a good draft, and we talked about that coming in. So you're monitoring guys, and you're always going to get guys higher in your list than when you pick them, right? But there's good players drafted after us. There's good players that went before us, and we're like, gee, that would have been a good pick. But ultimately, the guys you pick, we're really happy with all of them, not just Etienne and Idar in the second and third round.
Maybe just size too. A lot of it throughout kind of the board, I think all around 6 foot or above. I mean, just maybe how did that end up working out? Is seeing some size added in the organization?
Yeah, it worked out because I said before, I think our prospect base is missing a little skill with size, and but we weren't going to go away from skill just for size. They had to be together, and it worked out. It worked out with obviously Samuel Honzik, who's a highly skilled guy. Suniev had 90 points, really good goal scorer. Lipinski's a little bit of a late bloomer, but he put up really good numbers this year in Vancouver too, as Samuel's teammate, right? And Etienne's a really, really cerebral, fluid, mobile defenseman who we think can run a power play one day.
And maybe just on that alone, because you look at your picks, the amount of skill that's there. I mean, just how when you talk about ceiling and promise there. I mean, how pleased are you with adding some of that skill into your?
Oh, really, really pleased. You have to do it, and we only had 3 picks last year, so this year we get 6 shots at it. So you have to add to that department. You never have enough. There can never be enough. If a player has to be brought in because you didn't have a player that didn't develop properly or whatever, then you fall behind a little bit. So without picks, we have to capitalize on it when we do have them.
And do you feel like you're able to sort of address a lot of different needs? Like you take a goalie, a couple defensemen, a few forwards, you got some big guys, you got guys sort of playing all over the place. It seems like you did a good job sort of filling in a lot of gaps.
And we didn't plan it like that, but I think that's our starting lineup for the new building right there. Got a goalie, 2 defensemen, and 3 forwards.
There's the timeline. I guess, what can you tell us about the Russian goalie and the Swedish defenseman who played?
Yegor Yegorov is the guy that Jordan Sigel's been tracking all year. He does an unbelievable job with his goalie group. They see everybody, like pros, college, Europe, and that's the advent of video, right? So he does a great job, and he had a good goalie list. And the one thing I was just saying on the radio is when the first goalie goes, they go. And you saw that right in the second round, but about 5 of them went. So there was a gap between our goalies, and we had the top group, and then we had a group like 5, 6, 7 round, and we called Jordy and said, we know how much you like Yegor, and a lot of those guys had been picked already, even in his group. So he said, yeah, if we get him into 6, that'd be a good value. And then Axel Herdigs, he's a guy who was, he was probably the 8th or 9th defenseman on the Swedish under-18 team, and then through injuries and being able to play a little bit more, as the year went on, we started to pay more attention to him. We liked him a little more, and by the 18s, he was playing full-time in the top 4. He's a bit of a project. But he's got a great demeanor. He's a physical defenseman, but he's really strong in his own end. And now we just got to get him to branch out and add to his skill set. And we got 4 years on him now because he's a European. So we're happy about getting a bit of a project there. But he's got a really, really solid defensive base and physical base that he can build off of.
When it comes to Suniev, I mean, those numbers are eye-popping, and obviously that team was dominant throughout the entire season. But just what skill set has allowed him to explode this year in Penticton?
Well, I think there's a couple things to that. First of all, it was a good team, right? He's surrounded with good teammates. Nadeau went in the first round. His teammate Bradley Nadeau, the other Nadeau brother, is going to school with him. He's a really good player too. But the neatest thing about those guys and the whole organization, they lost 3 games this year and 1 in the playoffs. They played the same way. They don't cheat. They're not flashing to us. They play honest, and when you watch that consistently, when you're up 5-0, and they're playing the same way, they're back checking hard, they're responsible. That just says he's got to be he doesn't have to score right away, or they don't always have to score, right? He can play without the puck and contribute to a team winning.
Huge. And then just to circle back to the second rounder and Moran again, just you said cerebral, and that's a word that's come up a lot, but just the demeanor of this guy and what really stood out about him.
I think he's so poised.
Yeah.
He can wait out a forecheck. He hangs on. He has that uncanny ability to hang on for that extra second, and make a forechecker go where he wants him to go, not where the forecheck is trying to get him to go. So our old scout is the GM there, Richie Tebow. So we knew him well, and we knew him coming. He got mono at the start of the year, but Fred Parker and I saw him at the under 17, that Capital Challenge last year in Ottawa with a bunch of these guys. So back to our conversation the other day, we had a better start this year because we saw those kids last year, the whole process. So we tracked him all year once he got back from mono, and he plays a ton. That one series, the second series he played like 5 overtime games. He was playing 40 minutes a game. So you can't do that if you don't have a brain and have good legs, right?
Anyone left undrafted that you think the team might take a look at?
Oh yeah, we got a bunch. Actually, Brad Pascal and Ray Edwards are probably right up in the suite right now making calls. We actually start that process right. We do it beforehand. If you go undrafted, we come to our development camp. So there's a good group that they're finalizing probably right now. Okay. I don't have a specific name for
That's
you.
fair.
Yeah, but there are guys.
How would you compare Etienne's play to someone like Jeremy Poirier from the same league? Sort of similarly good offensive numbers, but stylistically, how would they compare?
Jeremy's way more up the ice, on his toes, trying to create by himself, where Etienne's more let the play come to him, deception, move guys around, and then make a pass over here.
Etienne, when we asked him about it, he said he's trying to model his game just to get to a point where he can have pretty good stick work. What have you thought of his stick work?
You know what? I think that's the defensive part, right? So it's when you come up as a top player, you might get a lot of coaches in a lot of different systems. So the one thing about Etienne is you always talk about the fundamentals of defending from the net out, from the circles out. You don't want to be outside trying to defend in. And when you're in proper position, your stick has to be in the right position too to prevent the pass, or you make the guy pass it where you wanted to pass it to, and your teammates are, right? So he needs stuff. He needs work in all parts of the game. He's still a 17-year-old kid, but he's got the fundamental base in his head and his hands and his feet that's going to make it easier for him.